Hello everyone, welcome to the Advanced 2021.1.1 release webinar. I'm Bronwyn from the Professional Services team and I will be taking you through an overview of what is contained in the 2021.1.1 release. Looking at the agenda for this release, in construction we have made some UI improvements and enhancements to the debit adjustments process for subcontracts with retainage and subcontract billing. You can report and pay AP bills by project. In CRM, there have been enhancements made to the workflows for business accounts, customers and suppliers, as well as enhanced duplicate validation workflows for leads and contacts. There have also been automation changes made to several screens. Side panels allowing for multifaceted views have been added to the business accounts, opportunities, contacts and cases lists. In finance, you can now restrict visibility of supplier records in the same manner as already available for customer records, or restrict visibility based on company groups. You can record costs for assets under construction and prepare payments by project amongst a range of multiple other improvements. In integration, there is a change to exporting of product, filtering of entities by customer fields and attribute, the ability to import order fraud analysis from Shopify, and support for multiple warehouse locations for Shopify, among other things. In manufacturing, the capable to promise functionality has been implemented, which will be valuable for organizations who use advanced planning and scheduling. There is also enhanced linking of sales order lines with sales orders and enhanced scheduling of work center capacity, amongst other improvements. In distribution, you can now process sales and purchase orders between companies or branches in the same tenant. There are significant improvements to the processing of drop shipments, drop ship processing, plus multiple UI changes and enhancements to inventory and order management screens to provide a much better user experience. There have been several changes in the platform area, from automatically sending SMS messages for business events, mobile push notifications, enhancement to KPI widgets, and the ability to link widgets for dashboards. There have also been several improvements made to generic inquiry side panels. In project management, this release adds the ability to make an account group inactive, makes changes in the logic relating to the closing of commitments and recalculation of committed values. Several screens have been redesigned to support the new workflow engine. In services, you have the ability to customize the functionality for screens with calendar boards. It's been improved and extended. It is now possible to add an accounts payable bill to an appointment or a service order. The processing of service orders and appointments has been redesigned to use the improved workflow engine, plus other improvements. There has been a UI change to screen titles, with subtitles made up of the record ID, name, description, or additional information displaying under the screen title. The ability to customize screens of the self-service portal has been added. Default values can be set for user-defined fields. There have also been improvements made to the workflow engine. And in mobile development, a customizer can now map smart panels to the MYOB Advanced MYOB app. And you'll notice as I go through this presentation that the overall look and feel of the UI has been improved throughout the product, providing a more intuitive experience for the advanced user. There are also workflow improvements in all areas of the product, supported by the new workflow automation engine. Here's an approximate breakdown of the changes by topic area. Topics for construction include debit adjustments for subcontracts, subcontract billing, payment by project, and general UI improvements. As of the 2021.1.1 release, a user can create a partial debit adjustment for a bill prepared for a subcontract with retainage. The benefit being you no longer need to reverse and re-enter a bill with an adjusted amount. To cater for this, there have been some UI changes to the bills and adjustments form. The Add Subcontracts button and Subcontract Date column have been relabeled. An Add Subcontract Line button and Project Task and Cost Code column have been added, and the Sub-Item column has been removed. To create a debit adjustment, simply select the debit adjustment type, and from the Add Subcontract or Add Subcontract line table, select lines to be added to the adjustment. You can amend the line costs where necessary and release. On release of the debit adjustment, the system decreases the billed amount and billed quantity in the lines of the corresponding subcontract on the subcontract screen. Known limitations: the debit adjustment line quantity cannot exceed the billed quantity, and in a debit adjustment line linked to a subcontract, the project and project task specified in the line cannot be changed. The logic for subcontract billing has been changed. When billing a non-stock item, the system will look to the closed PO line setting on the non-stock item to determine what to do. If this is set to by amount, the unbilled amount remaining on the subcontract is automatically populated into the extended cost field of the AP bill. By quantity, if the total quantity of the subcontract has already been reached, no amount is proposed. The AP Prepare Payment screen now supports filtering and paying of bills based on a project. A project field has been added and displays if the project's feature is enabled. If the bill has Pay by Line selected, each line of a bill that matches the project selected displays on the Documents to Pay tab. If Pay by Line is not selected, if at least one line of the bill contains a project match, the bill is added and a warning displays the amount paid refers to the entire bill. Where Pay by Line is cleared, the lines of retainage documents are shown if the project selected is the same as the project specified for a line in the retainage bill. There have been minor changes made to construction-related screens, making these more intuitive for users. On the Suppliers General tab, the Supplier Default section has been renamed to Project Defaults. And for the following screens, the Has Expired Compliance Documents column has been renamed to Expired Compliance. Also, just a note that the AR Docs by Project with Paid Amount, the report has been replaced with an AR Open Documents by Project report. This is covered in the Finance section of this overview. In CRM, there have been significant enhancements to workflows, including an enhanced duplicate validation workflow, enhancements relating to contacts and employees, and multifaceted views for the lists of business accounts, opportunities, contacts and cases. In this release, there has been an improved layout of the business account screen. The record state or customer status is changed by the system based on actions rather than manually. Some fields have been renamed and or moved. For example, Class ID is now just Class, Type is now found on the CRM Info tab. Business accounts that formerly had the prospect PR type have been changed to Business Account. The workflow for business accounts and customers works the same way and shares the same states. For example, when the state of a business account is changed, the state of the associated customer changes accordingly. From 2021.1.1, the workflow for supplier has become independent from the workflows for customer and business accounts, so changes to the business account status doesn't update to the supplier in the way it does for customers. And just a note, with business accounts created through an API, these should have the prospect status in the customer status field of the summary area rather than active. This is to avoid an error related to the extension of the account as a customer. Changes have been made to the Update Business Account screen to support the new workflow changes. An operation and action field have been added. When set to update settings, this works as previously. When set to execute action, the action field is activated and a filter applied to the table, displaying only those records for which the action can be applied. There's also an improved layout of the account locations, customer locations, and supplier location screens. The active checkbox has been replaced by a status field. If an organisation uses automation steps, import scenarios, or export scenarios for any of the above screens, the automation of the processes related to those screens will need to be redesigned by a customization user using the new workflow engine. In 2021.1.1, users can now check if a duplicate exists for a lead or contact before a new record has been created. A Create on Entry column has been added to the tabs of the Customer Management Preferences screen, where you can select to either check and allow or check and warn. Allow is the default. There is an additional block option on the Account Validation Rules tab that prevents the creation of a duplicate business account. With the change to this functionality, the Require Unique Email Address on Contact Validation checkbox in the Summary area is no longer required and has been removed. A user can no longer select to view employee type contacts. Only those records that have a contact type are visible in the Contact ID search field, and the type field has been removed from the summary area. The workflow for contacts has been enhanced with the active checkbox replaced with a status field. The current state of the record is changed when selecting an action. On the employee screen, the employee contact field in the General Info section, showing the link between the employee and the associated contact record, has been removed and a Synchronized to Exchange checkbox added. A side panel has been added to the Business Accounts Inquiry screen. The panel contains a number of tabs, as outlined, allowing users, depending on their access rights, the option to quickly view or modify various information relating to any selected account without the need to open multiple screens. The information updates dynamically as a business account name is selected. The access rights to the panels and widgets have been pre-configured for the predefined CRM user roles. A system administrator can configure similar access rights for other user roles if needed via the Access Rights by Role screen. Tabs available are also dependent on what features are enabled within the system. Side panels with a number of tabs have also been added for the lists of opportunities, contacts and cases. On a side panel, when a user clicks the link to a record such as a contact or an invoice or any widget or its title to drill down for more details, the system opens the record in a separate browser tab. In Finance, we have the new Company Groups functionality, financial dashboards, the ability to manage fixed assets under construction, paid amounts and line level balances in AR reports, new workflow support on the finance screens, the ability to restrict visibility of supplier records, support for cash transactions and bank deposits, support for price lists for net gross prices, improvements in synchronization of tax periods with financial periods where needed, tax support for expense on bank transfers, plus other improvements. Company Groups functionality has been introduced in 2021.1.1, allowing for multiple companies that share the same customers and suppliers to be grouped and the visibility of those records limited to the companies and branches of that group. The functionality is available where the customer and supplier restriction feature is enabled. For reporting purposes, a company can be included in more than one group. To support this, the Company Groups tab has been added to the Company screen, so you can see at a glance which groups the company belongs to. You can add or remove the company to the group from either of these screens. The Company Branch drop-down list on multiple screens has been modified to include company groups. As of 2021.1.1, the financial reports for the AR Clerk, AP Clerk and Financial Controller are included in MYOB Advanced. These dashboards include various key performance indicators, metrics and charts that are relevant to the various user roles. For example, for the AR Clerk, we have aged balances, overdue accounts, customers on credit hold. For the AP Clerk, we have documents on hold, PO receipts to bill, and AP aging. And for the Controller, links to both the AR and AP dashboards, as well as high-level financial information such as cash on hand, cash position, AR and AP aging, and the like. The dashboards use generic inquiries to gather the underlying data and can be customized using Dashboard Designer. Users only see the information they have access to. You can now track the costs of assets that are under construction. An under construction checkbox has been added to the fixed assets class. Assets assigned to this class can have process cost additions and deductions, as well as perform other fixed assets operations, but are not available for depreciation until they come into service. To support this change, the logic for the Placed in Service Date field on the Fixed Assets screen has been changed to be optional, where the asset is assigned to an under construction class. As soon as the asset is moved to any other class type, this is required. On the Calculate Depreciation screen, records relating to fixed assets under construction are excluded from view. The AR Open Documents by Project and by Customer reports have been redesigned to display information as at the current business date, as well as show amounts paid or applied. Both reports are available in the Project Management and Construction workspace, in addition to the Receivables workspace. UI changes made to the selection criteria. Because the report displays as at the current business date, the financial period has been removed. The Include Retainage Documents checkbox has been removed, as these are already included in the amounts of the related original documents. A report format field for detailed individual documents or summary list of records has been added. A paid adjusted column has been added to the report, which shows the total amount of applications. As previously mentioned in the construction overview, the AR Open Documents by Project report replaces the AR Docs by Project with Paid Amount report. In 2021.1.1, the finance screens that used automation steps have been redesigned to support the new workflow engine. For example, Put on Credit Hold is now Credit Hold. Release from Credit Hold is now Remove Credit Hold. Send Email is now just Email. Actions that have been moved, the print has been moved from the reports and added to the Actions menu. Action names have been unified throughout customers, suppliers, customer details, supplier details, journal transactions and managed credit holds. For automation changes, we have an important note. If the organisation uses automation steps, import scenarios or export scenarios for the screens mentioned, users who work on customizations will need to redesign the automation of the processes related to the applicable screens by using the new workflow engine. Please check the 2021.1.1 release notes for full details. In 2020.6, the ability to restrict visibility of customer records was added into Advanced. The 2021.1.1 release brings the same functionality for restricting the visibility of supplier records. Supplier records can be restricted by branch or by company. To accommodate for this and the Enable-Disable features, the Company Visibility Restriction option has been renamed to Customer and Supplier Visibility Restriction. A Restrict Visibility field has been added to the Supplier Classes screen. This will default for any new supplier created or assigned to this class. If any restriction groups have been configured in the system, they will be applied in addition to the Supplier Visibility Restriction functionality. Changes have been made to multiple data entry and processing screens to respect the supplier restriction setting. On the Supplier Locations General tab, default branch is limited based on the supplier visibility. On the Supplier Summary and Supplier Profile reports, only information visible to the current user based on their role displays. The suppliers and supplier location lists display based on the restriction settings for the current user. Users can now post cash account entries to clearing accounts and add these entries to the Payments tab of the bank deposit screen. A new tax calculation mode field has been added to the Sales Prices and Sales Price Worksheet screens. The functionality is available if the Net Gross Entry Mode feature is enabled and makes it much easier to differentiate whether a price is gross or net. On the table, columns for tax calculation mode and tax category have been added. Just a note, I have moved these columns for the purpose of taking the screenshot. By default, they are toward the far right of the table. When selecting to create price worksheet, the system copies the value selected in tax calculation mode to the created worksheet. Other UI changes. On the Supplier Prices screen, the Effective As Of field displays the current business date by default. On the Supplier Price worksheets, when copied prices is selected on the toolbar, the system copies only the prices that have a tax calculation mode selected in the worksheet. The priority of prices copied by default to a document has not been changed, but where the Net Gross Entry Mode feature has been enabled, the system selects prices based on those that are not set or match the tax calculation mode setting. Where a user-defined change has been made to the financial calendar, you can now synchronize tax periods with the GL financial periods, regardless of the tax period status. Previously, if at least one tax period in a tax year has a prepared or closed status, the update wasn't performed. When running the Prepare Tax Report and Release Tax Report actions, if a tax agency is selected and a user-defined change has been made to the financial periods on the master financial calendar, an error message will display. For the Prepare Tax Report, running a synchronize action will resolve. For the Release Tax Report, this will need to be voided and then a synchronize run to correct the period structure for the tax year. There is now tax support for expenses on bank transfers. On the Fund Transfer screen in the table is a link to an Expense Taxes window where tax can be added for the expense line. One expense line can have multiple tax lines. Other improvements in the area of finance. The word Validate has been changed to Recalculate on the following screens. For those highlighted in purple, the Validate and Validate All buttons on the toolbar have been renamed to Process and Process All. And the project screen action Validate Project Balance has been renamed to Recalculate Project Balance. A Change ID action has been added to the Ledgers screen. You can now recalculate account history for statistical ledgers. The statement cycle has been moved to sit above the overdue charge date field, so any change does not reset the date. The branch field has been replaced with a company branch field on the write-off balances and credit screen. On the cash flow forecast screen, a company branch field has been added and the following fields renamed. And a company branch field has been added to the following screens. In integration, I'll touch on the change to product exporting, changes to tax settings, enhancements in the Commerce Sync monitoring dashboard, filtering of entities by customer fields and attributes, importing order fraud analysis from Shopify, importing returns and refunds from BigCommerce, support for multiple warehouse locations for Shopify, synchronization of multiple order types with BigCommerce, plus other improvements. If the Commerce integration feature is enabled, on the General Settings tab for the Items classes, an Export to External System checkbox displays. By default, this is selected for all new item classes. This is also on the Stock Items e-commerce tab, non-stock items and template item screens. The setting defaults from the item class for the item. This is editable, so it can be set to false. Only items that have Export to External System selected can be exported to an external e-commerce system during synchronization of the stock item, non-stock item and template item entities. When matrix items are generated, the initial state of the checkbox is inherited from the template item the matrix items are based on. The checkbox is read-only for individual matrix items. The taxes section of the Order Settings tab for both BigCommerce stores and Shopify stores has been redesigned. To specify each store's settings for the synchronization of taxes, you need to select the Tax Synchronization checkbox, specify the tax zone to be used to calculate taxes, if this cannot be determined based on the customer location or shipping address, or alternatively select User's primary tax zone if this is to be used to calculate taxes for sales orders imported from the external e-commerce system. When tax synchronization is turned on, the following is the order used by the system to determine the tax zone for tax calculation. When tax synchronization is turned off, if a sales order is imported from an external system and the tax zone in the order has been defined in MYOB Advanced, the system will use that tax zone for tax calculations. Multiple enhancements have been made to the Commerce Sync monitoring dashboard, which displays commerce-related statistics. The listed tiles have been added to provide key information on the status of commerce record imports. The 2021.1.1 release notes covers additional detail on each of these tiles. From 2021.1.1, entities to be exported to an online store can be filtered by custom fields and attributes that have been added to the following screens from our published customization project. The screens for custom fields are customer, stock item, non-stock item, template item, and sales order. Attributes are the same as for custom, except for the sales order screen. Filtering based on a custom field or attribute is done from the Entities Export Filtering tab. Attributes can easily be distinguished from custom fields by the attribute's prefix in their name. Just some special considerations. Where a custom field or attribute is unavailable during export for any reason, the system treats the value in the condition as null. To avoid issues during export, add an is not empty condition to each filtering condition that includes custom fields or attributes. The fraud analysis data with risk recommendations can be imported for sales orders created in Shopify. On the Order Settings tab of the Shopify store screen, an implementation manager can select Import Order Risks and assign a Hold on Risk status. This can be set to high risk or a combination of medium or high risk. When orders are imported from Shopify, their risk can then be reviewed on the New Risk tab of the sales order. This shows the risk status, whether low, medium or high, the risk score and what the recommendation is. Each order can have more than one risk recommendation and score. The risk status is based on the maximum risk from those listed. Orders that are deemed too risky to process can be cancelled from Actions Cancel Order. Orders that are considered safe can have their risk hold status removed by selecting the Remove Risk Hold action on the toolbar. Depending on the workflow, the order is then assigned Open or Pending Approval status. The BigCommerce connector now supports importing returns and refunds from BigCommerce. To do this, Refunds Entity must be active on the Entity Settings tab of the BigCommerce Stores screen. On the Order Settings tab, settings for return order type, refund amount item and refund reason code must be specified. For a refund to be successfully imported, the original sales order must have been synchronized and not be partially shipped, and the payment to which the refund relates has been imported and released and has the authorized payment processing status. A refund window without any return may occur if, for example, the customer hasn't received the ordered item or has been overcharged. If the original sales order has a status other than open, on hold or completed, the refund cannot be applied and an error would be returned. A refund for item returns is one where the product is returned. This could be due to the customer wanting to reduce the number of items purchased or being unhappy with either the performance or condition of the property. Like a refund without any return, if the original sales order has a status other than open, on hold or completed, the refund cannot be applied and an error will be returned. Multiple warehouse locations are now supported in the synchronization setting of the Shopify store on the Shopify store screen. If more than one warehouse location has been created in Shopify, an implementation manager can specify the way the inventory availability data will be exported from MYOB Advanced. To cater for this, a new warehouse mode field has been added to the inventory settings. The options available are All Warehouse. The system exports the inventory availability data to the first warehouse location created in Shopify. Specific warehouses. The implementation manager specifies the warehouses and their locations in the warehouse mapping for inventory export table. Support has been added for the export of orders of multiple types to BigCommerce stores. This functionality is available only if the Custom Order Types feature is enabled on the Enable Disable Features screen. To cater for this, the Order Type field has been renamed to Order Type for Import, and a new field, Order Types for Export, has been added. An administrator user can select any number of order types for export. The default order type assigned to Order Type for imported orders can now be overridden by the administrative user by configuring an import mapping rule on the Entity screen, Import Mapping tab. Other improvements that have been made to the e-commerce functionality: updated lists of fields available for mapping and filtering on the Export Mapping and Import Mapping tabs, and Export Filtering and Importing tabs of the Entities screen. There's also support for drag and drop functionality on the Entities screen, allowing for users to change the order of any row in the table by dragging this to a new position. Renaming of availability options on the BigCommerce stores and Shopify store screens, non-stock items, stock items and template screens. A new Do Not Update option has been added to the BigCommerce stores and Shopify stores inventory settings tab to prevent the export of the quantity and availability settings for particular items during synchronization of the stock item, non-stock item, template item and product availability entities. There have been changes to the availability synchronization settings for Shopify stores, with the default availability field pre-order option and the when quantity unavailable field set as pre-order option removed. Removal of overrides for matching billing and shipping data during the export of a sales order based on field matches to reduce the amount of data to be stored and improve the system performance, and rename fields on the sync history and process data screens. For the Shopify connector, the ability to tag an external order number with an MYOB Advanced order number, meaning the sales order number generated in MYOB Advanced is exported back to Shopify. Customer sales representatives will be easily able to cross-verify sales orders between MYOB Advanced and Shopify. Looking now at manufacturing, the 2021.1.1 release brings in capable to promise functionality, enhanced linking of sales order lines and production orders, enhanced scheduling of work centre capacity, new workflow in engineering change requests, engineering change orders, and supplier shipments, among other improvements. In 2021.1.1, exciting new capable to promise functionality has been implemented in the advanced manufacturing and is available if advanced planning and scheduling is enabled. Capable to promise allows organisations the ability to commit delivery dates for customer orders based on production, resource capacity, and inventory, which is a huge benefit to organisations utilising this functionality. Capable to promise takes any constraints that might hinder production, such as access to resources, lead times for acquiring raw materials and parts, plus the ability to acquire resources required for sub-assemblies or lower level components, and uses this information to determine when delivery will be possible by using finite scheduling. Configuration of the CTP functionality is fully covered in the 2021.1.1 release notes under the topic of the same name. It is recommended that a production order type dedicated to CTP is created, assigned to the planning function, and that these are excluded from the MRP regeneration process. Once a new type has been created, this is assigned to the Capable to Promise order type field in the Production Preferences screen on the General tab. Stock items that will work with the new functionality need to have CTP items selected on the Manufacturing tab. Once this functionality has been established, during sales order creation, if the Process CPT action is selected, a Process Capable to Promise screen displays with the lines of the sales order that have the CTP item checkbox selected. You can select which lines you want to include in the Run CTP action. The system will then calculate projected dates of when items can be shipped to the customer and create a planning order that can be viewed on the Production Order Details screen. CTP calculated dates can be accepted or rejected where they exceed the deadline requested, allowing for the option of discussing potential new delivery dates with the customer. Any planning orders for rejected dates are deleted. The manager can also look at the quantity available to be shipped by the requested date. This functionality provides a rich set of detailed information for use by the Customer Services Manager. The ability to link an existing product order to a sales order line has been implemented, allowing for production orders created during material requirements planning to be linked to the sales order lines that generate the demand. This can be done by specifying the production order on the sales order screen by selecting Link Prod Order button off the Details tab, or by clicking the Link Sales Order button on the Production Order Maintenance screen References tab. A production order can be linked to a sales order provided the production order is not assigned the completed, cancelled or closed status, and the sales order is not assigned the cancelled, backorder or completed status. The same stock item must be specified in the production order and sales order lines, and cannot be set as a configurable item on the Sales Order Details tab. The Mark for Production checkbox must also be selected on the sales order screen for the sales order line. Any links between a sales order line and a production order can be easily removed via the Remove Link button on the Production Order Maintenance screen References tab, leaving the production order line free to be linked to a different sales order line and vice versa. The functionality of linking sales order and production orders has the following conditions. One production order can be linked to only one sales order line, and a sales order line can only be linked to one production order. If the Multiple Warehouses feature is enabled, on the Enable Disable Features screen, the same warehouse must be specified in the production order and in the sales order line. To support the change, on the Order Types General Settings tab, all settings relating to manufacturing have been moved to the Manufacturing section, and on the sales order screen, the Production Orders action has been renamed to Create Production Order. Work center capacity can now be managed based on crew size and efficiency. This will benefit those organisations that use rough cut planning for scheduling production orders. The finite scheduling algorithm has been enhanced to look at crew size and efficiency when calculating the duration of an operation. This means when scheduling is executed, the proper resource capacity is utilised without the need to manually adjust for this. The functionality is available when the Advanced Planning and Scheduling feature is enabled. The checkbox Use Shift Crew Size in Production Preferences determines whether the old or new algorithm is used. At the Work Centre level, crew size and efficiency percentages are entered by shift in the table on the Shift Info tab. These values can be adjusted during operations and the operation rescheduled using the rough cut planning screen. The duration of an operation is calculated by taking the quantity to produce and multiplying this by the result of runtime divided by run units times capacity, where capacity is the crew size times efficiency. By specifying the number of crew members per shift in the crew size column on the shift screen, a planning manager can then use the new Work Centre crew scheduling to ensure crew size assigned to a shift does not exceed standard crew size. The following screens have been redesigned to use the new workflow engine. All processes performed by these screens work as they did in previous versions. On all three screens, the Hold checkbox has been removed and replaced with the Hold button and action that can be selected on the toolbar. In addition, on the Supplier Shipment screen, a Remove Hold button has been added to the toolbar. The document statuses and their corresponding actions are noted in the 2021.1.1 release notes. A note about automation. If the organisation uses automation steps, import scenarios or export scenarios for any of the above screens, users that work on customizations will need to redesign the automation of the processes related to the applicable screens by using the new workflow engine. Existing workflows can be customized in the Customization Project Editor or by extending graphs and workflows in the PX Objects AM namespace. Also, actions of the new workflows can be used through the contract-based API. Other improvements in the area of manufacturing. On the Warehouse's Screen Locations Table tab, a new Production Allowed checkbox has been provided and displays if the manufacturing feature is enabled. This checkbox is used to indicate that a warehouse location can be involved in production processes. Previously, this was indicated by the Assembly Allowed checkbox, which is also used to indicate the warehouse location can be used in kit assembly transactions. The Assembly Allowed checkbox is now solely to indicate if the warehouse location is involved in kit assembly transactions and is displayed if the kit assembly feature is enabled. For customers who upgrade to this version, the state of the Production Allowed checkbox is inherited from the state of the Assembly Allowed checkbox. For new installations, the Production Allowed checkbox is selected by default. With the Capable to Promise functionality, it is possible there could be a large number of planning orders created in the system. To allow the Planning Manager the ability to schedule operations for regular productions only, an Exclude Planning Orders checkbox has been added to the Rough Cut Planning screen selection area. When selected, all planning orders are hidden from the list of orders on the screen. On the Warehouse Details screen, the replenishment source and warehouse to be used in the manufacturing-related process can now be specified or viewed from the Replenishment tab, even when the replenishment feature is disabled. The Source Field Override checkbox and Replenishment Warehouse field have been removed from the Manufacturing tab replenishment settings. The Allocations button and Allocations window have been renamed to Line Details on the following screens. The Allocations tab on the Production Order Maintenance screen has also been renamed to Line Details. In distribution for 2021.1.1, we now have the ability for processing cross-company sales and to detect dead stock items. There have been improvements made to the drop shipping process, matrix item enhancements, multi-currency and purchase returns, a new workflow order and management documents, the ability to purchase receipts for non-stock items without requiring the inventory feature, and UI changes in inventory and order management screens. This release provides the ability to process sales and purchase orders between companies or branches in the same tenant. The functionality is available if the inter-branch transactions feature is enabled. All cross-company documents are created one for one, that is, one purchase order for one sales order, one purchase receipt for one shipment. The functionality works for purchase orders of the normal type and sales order types that have the sales order sales or RMA returns automation behavior. During the cross-company sales process, a purchase order is entered with the selling company specified as the supplier. The sales order can be generated from an action on the purchase order or for large quantities of cross-company sales orders via a Generate Intercompany Sales Order mass processing screen. The sales order goes through the normal process in the supplying company with a shipment and an AR invoice being created. The purchase receipt is generated and the AP bill created. The return process does the reverse, generating a sales order return and a debit adjustment. To cater for this new functionality, the following screens have been updated to reflect intercompany actions, settings and all details. Please see the 2021.1.1 release notes for full details related to changes to these screens. There have also been two new screens added for the mass generation of sales orders based on purchase orders and the mass generation of purchase receipts based on shipments from the selling company. Some cross-company sales functionality restrictions exist at this version, such as actions or elements being disabled. Full details of these restrictions are contained in the release notes. A dead stock inquiry screen has been added to the inquiries category of the inventory workspace. This is available if the inventory feature is enabled. This inquiry form shows inventory items in stock that have not been added to sales orders, transfers, IN issues, kit assemblies, and other documents affecting quantity on hand for the period of time specified. The query can be selected based on days or date and returns results where items have either been in stock for or no sales for the specified period of time. The result shows how much of the in-stock quantity is considered to be dead for how many days and the cost to the business. There have been significant improvements made to the functionality related to the interconnections between sales orders and dropship purchase orders. On the Purchase Orders Details tab, the Sales Order Number, Sales Order Line Number, and SO Linked checkbox have been added to the table for the purchase orders of dropship type. The View SO Demand button has been removed, and on the Shipping tab, the Sales Order Type and Sales Order Number are shown in the Ship to Detail. On the Sales Order Details tab, the Dropship Purchase Order Number, Sales Order Line Number and PO Link checkbox have been added. A dropship purchase order and sales order can be linked only if the inventory ID, quantity and unit of measure in all corresponding lines of the dropship purchase order and sales order are equal. Where there is at least one line with the stock or non-stock item not linked to a corresponding sales order line, or any line has an inactive link, on removing from hold or pending approval, the awaiting link status is automatically assigned. New actions have been added to the purchase order screen as part of this change. This release also introduced the ability to process returns of dropship goods from customers directly to the supplier without the organisation receiving these goods in the warehouse. The Create Supplier Return action is available on the Sales Order screen for sales orders with a type that has the RMA order automation behaviour. Multiple changes have been made to the matrix item functionality to ease the creation and management of matrix items. On Template Items Configurations tab, an Add Spaces column has been added, which allows the system to add spaces to the values of the inventory ID or description segment of the matrix item. On the same screen, users can now upload template item images, which are used when matrix items are imported into e-commerce stores, and users can now create matrix items with only one variant attribute, either default column attribute ID or default attribute row ID. On the matrix item tab, the values in the description, MSRP and default price columns can now be edited and displayed on the stock item screen. The Apply to Matrix Items button has been renamed to Update Matrix Items. On the Classes screen, Attributes tab, defaults column and default row attribute ID fields have been added, along with inventory ID and description segment setting tables. On the Sales Order and Purchase Order screens, when the Add Matrix Item button is selected, the Add Matrix window is now opened in Matrix View by default, with an Open Table View button added to the bottom of the window. An Add Matrix Items button has been added to the Sales Quote and Opportunities Document Details tabs. In Advanced 2021.1.1, a purchase return created from a purchase receipt can inherit the currency of the original purchase receipt. The ability to change the currency is dependent on the cost of inventory return dropped list setting. Original cost from receipt items are returned at the cost they were purchased. The currency rate is inherited from the original purchase receipt and read-only. Cost by issue strategy. The items are returned at the cost calculated according to the valuation method specified in the stock item general settings, and the currency rate set according to the purchase return date and effective currency rate specified on the currency rate screen. The rate can be overridden if Enable Rate Override is selected on the supplier and allow changing of currency rate on receipt selected in PO Preferences. Manual cost input. The currency rate is selected according to the purchase return date and the effective currency rate specified on the currency rate form. The same rules apply to overriding the rate as for cost by issue strategy. There's a new workflow on order management documents with the purchase orders, purchase receipts, landed cost and inventory documents redesigned to use the new workflow engine. The processes performed on all following screens work as they did previously, with the UI enhanced to support the new workflow engine functionality. On all the following screens, the hold checkbox has been removed and replaced with a Remove Hold and Hold Actions that can be selected from the Screen Toolbar or Actions menu button. Buttons representing the actions that are most relevant to the current status of the document opened on the screen are displayed directly on the Screen Toolbar in addition to being included as menu commands in the Action menu. Please refer to the release notes for further details on document types, statuses, and the corresponding actions for those screens. With automation changes, if the organisation uses automation steps, import scenarios or export scenarios for any of the screens listed, users that work on customizations will need to redesign the automation of the processes related to the applicable screens by using the new workflow engine. When the inventory feature is disabled, users now have the ability to process non-stock items by using purchasing receipts and purchasing returns. On the right is a list of screens available for use. On Enable Disable features, a Purchase Receipts Without Inventory option has been added. Inventory needs to be disabled for this to be enabled. When enabled, on Purchase Order, the Enter PO Receipt action is available for non-stock items. On the non-stock items screen, General Settings tab, a process item via receipt checkbox is displayed. The requirement shipments and require receipt checkboxes are removed. Purchases for a non-stock item that has process item via receipt selected can be entered directly on the purchase receipts screen. When releasing a receipt for a non-stock item, no GL transactions are posted until release of the corresponding AP bill. Purchase returns can be posted on the purchase receipts screen. For a non-stock item that was created when the inventory feature was enabled, the state of the require receipt checkbox on the non-stock item screen is inherited. For newly created items, this defaults to blank. For full details on the posting and processing rules, please refer to the release notes. A new purchase receipt unbilled summary report has been added to support this functionality. It's only available if this feature is enabled. Various UI changes and enhancements have been made to the following screens to provide a more intuitive experience for users. A number of tabs, buttons and actions have been renamed. The order of the buttons on the toolbar in some cases has been changed. For sales orders, a contact field has been added to the summary area. A new addresses tab has been provided. The arrangement of the sections on the financial tab has changed, and a new ownership and other information section has been added. For a full list of changes to these screens, please refer to the release notes. In Platform for this release, you can now send SMS messaging and mobile push notifications for business events. There have been improvements to configuration for business events and notifications. Business events can be triggered by an action. There are new KPI and link widgets for dashboards. There have been a number of changes for generic inquiries, including the ability to change a title, navigation to an external URI, improvements to side panels, and selecting the table to which notes and files are attached, plus expanded search of system entities and recently viewed records. With the release of 2021.1.1, you will have the ability to automatically send SMS messages to mobile phones when business events are triggered. To use this functionality, the MYOB SMS feature must be enabled under Monitoring and Automation on the Enable Disable Features screen. Licensing is purchased in bundles, each allowing for sending 500 SMS messages per month. Bundles can be subscribed, that is paid for in advance. These are available to all tenants, or flexible. These are paid for at the end of each month depending on how many you use. Flexible bundles are specific to each tenant. Full details around licensing and billing are contained in the release notes. The SMS messaging functionality is set up on a new MYOB SMS preferences screen. This shows your subscribed and flexible bundle totals, the total SMS allowance, how many messages have been sent, and the total messages remaining. It also provides the date of license renewal. A user account with administrator role is required to access this screen. Once SMS messaging has been enabled, these can be used with business events. To ensure you never get caught short of SMS message quotas, an SMS allowance alert is pre-configured when your number of messages sent is at 90% of your total allowance, and another when you have run out. This release adds the ability to automatically send messages to users via the MYOB Advanced mobile app when business events are triggered. It adds a new subscriber type for mobile push notification, where a user can enter push notifications that are sent to selected recipients based on a configured condition. Business event and notification menu commands have been added to the Tools menu for most data entry and inquiry screens, allowing those with permission to view or add notifications and business events from the screen. A Send by Events tab has been added to both the notification templates and mobile notification screens, allowing a customizer to view business events that trigger the email, push or SMS notification. A new business event type called Trigger by Action has been added, allowing for an event to be triggered from an inquiry screen. For example, if you want to email out invoice reminders, with this event set up for the Invoice and Memos screen, I can select to do this from an Actions button on the toolbar off the Invoices and Memos inquiry. New and improved widgets are now available for selection on the dashboard. A Key Performance Indicator widget is available with both a scorecard and a meta visualization type. Scorecard displays a single piece of information, for example, year-to-date sales, total age balances, cash flow total, etc. Meta is represented as a gauge showing the full range of data. The colour of the widget can be set to change based on the information reported. For example, a traffic light system with green as normal, orange as warning and red as alarm, providing a visual cue. It can be based on an absolute value, an inquiry field, or a percentage value. An inquiry field type could be used to track sales volumes and target quotas for individual salespeople. Link widgets are helpful for navigating to information of relevance to the user. For example, I may be responsible for user access to data. I can select the link widget, select an icon, choose the form I want to link to, give this a description, and click Finish. On my dashboard will be a link to the form I selected. This release provides the ability to change a generic inquiry title on the generic inquiry screen. You can do this for both predefined and custom generic inquiries. To accommodate this change, an Actions menu has been added to the screen that includes the Change Inquiry Title command, and the Exporters Report and Change Screen ID buttons have been moved from the toolbar onto this Actions menu. Also on the Generic Inquiry screen, on the Navigations tab, a user can set a navigation target to an external link or URI, having the choice of where this will be viewed. You can also set navigation parameters. This ability can be very useful, for example in e-commerce solutions to monitor items whose state can change. Please see the release notes for more details. There have been improvements made to the generic inquiry side panels. You can deactivate by removing the tick beside any target row and setting to inactive. You can reorder the panels by dragging any row on the navigation target table and dropping this into the position you want it to display. And you can also restrict the visibility of the information on the panel from a Visible Conditions tab, as shown in the screenshot. And finally, for the Generic Inquiry screen, on the Relations tab, you can nominate which record of the table you want to attach files to from the Attach Notes to field. Files can be attached by clicking the paperclip icon on the far left of the row, notes by clicking the note icon. And finally, the following entities are now searchable by using the search field on the top pane of the MYOB Advanced screen. The recently viewed workspace has also been expanded to include more information about these entities. In project management, there have been changes to account groups, closing commitments, default accounts and sub-accounts, a new workflow support on entry screens, and a change to payment by project. In this release, you now have the ability to make an account group inactive. Any group set to inactive cannot be selected on data entry screens. An account group can only be deactivated if it has no associated accounts on the Accounts tab. Once inactive, the system cannot generate project transactions or project budget lines for that group account. The logic related to closing of commitments has been reviewed and amended to provide a consistent solution that covers all the identified scenarios, including partial billing, receiving, and closing the corresponding line by quantity or by amount. A status, committed variance quantity, and committed variance amount columns have been added to the table. The calculation of the committed value on the committed received quantity, committed invoiced quantity, and committed invoiced amount has been changed. There has also been a validation change on the order quantity column of the Purchase Orders Document Details and Subcontracts Document Details tabs. A full explanation of the changes to closing commitments are contained in the 2021.1.1 release notes. In this release, the default account and sub-account fields have been replaced with separate default accounts and sub-accounts for sales and costs on the following screens. You can see from the screenshot that the first two fields in the first image have been replaced by the top four fields in the second image. If the sub-accounts feature is enabled, a user must specify the default sales sub-account for a project and each project task. If the default cost account is selected for a project or project task, a user must also specify the default cost sub-account. Full details on using the sales and cost accounts and sub-accounts in project billing, project allocations, time activities, accounts payable documents, and expense claims are contained in the 2021.1.1 release notes. Multiple screens that use automation steps, including those related to projects, construction, and time and expenses, have been redesigned to support the new workflow engine. The processes that are performed on these screens work as they did in previous versions. Because the implementation of the new workflow engine entails changes to DAX and business logic, it may affect custom generic inquiries, customization projects, import and export scenarios, and API integrations. For the complete list of changes, see release notes for developers. There have been a number of UI enhancements to the following screens. For projects, pro forma invoices, change orders, change request, cost projection, and daily field report, the hold checkbox has been replaced with a hold action. For projects, project tasks, project templates, requests for information, and project issue screens, the status field is now read-only. There have also been updates to existing actions for projects, requests for information, expense claim, expense receipt, employee time card, and equipment time card, with the commands added, removed, repositioned, and/or renamed. Please refer to the release notes for full details. For automation, if the organisation uses automation steps, import scenarios or export scenarios for the screens listed above, users who work on customizations will need to redesign the automation of the processes related to the applicable screens by using the new workflow engine. For more information, see the Creating Workflows chapter in the MYOB Advanced Customization Guide. As mentioned under Construction, a project field has been added to the AP Prepare Payment screen. This is visible when the Projects feature is enabled. When selected, a user can manage and pay bills related to a particular project. In Services, there have been customization improvements to calendar boards, the addition of AP bills to appointments and service orders, the ability to make corrections in a field service document, integration with the workflow engine, plus other improvements. The ability to customize the functionality for screens with calendar boards has been improved and extended with a new calendar preference screen provided. The new calendar preferences screen provides much more functionality relating to customizing the calendar board screens. You can control columns displayed on the service orders and unassigned appointments tab, add custom columns to tables, hide or show any column, and specify the order of the columns. You can also define the background and text colors of appointment fields for each appointment status and show or hide appointment fields in the calendar for each status. You can also customize the information shown on the appointment fields and specify those fields that values will display in for each appointment field, so lots of useful functionality there. You can now add an accounts payable bill to an appointment or a service order by either creating an AP bill from those screens linking an AP bill to an appointment or service order. A Create AP Bill button has been added to the table toolbar on the Detailed tab of both the appointment and service order screens. To link an AP bill on the Bill and Adjustment screen document details, you simply select the line for the appointment or service order you want to link to and select the document the bill is to be associated with in the related SVC doc type column, and then select the document's reference number in the related SVC doc number column. Any adjustments need to be made on the AP bill. When the changes to the bill are saved, the system updates the applicable lines of the related appointment or service order. In the mobile app, on the Details tab of the appointment screen, a Create Bill action has been added to the Actions menu to give users the ability to create the bills related to an appointment or a service order. A user can now correct data in field service documents such as appointments, service orders, and service contracts, even if billing documents such as sales orders, SO invoices, AR invoices, or AP bills have already been generated from the corresponding field service document and released. Changes have been made to the process for making these corrections. Details on the process of updating a service document based on whether the document has been generated and released or generated and not released are covered in full in the 2021.1.1 release notes. To support the changes to the correcting of field service documents, UI changes have been made to the following screens. For invoices and memos, invoice, bills and adjustments, and sales order, the appointment number, service order number, location and service appointment date columns have been removed, and the related SVC doc number column added. For appointments, service orders, a new Billing Documents tab has been added, and the Billing Info section on the Other Information tab has been removed. On the Service Order screen, the allocated buttons on the toolbar of the Details tab have been renamed to Line Details. On the Appointments screen in the MYOB Advanced mobile app, the Billing Info section has been removed from the Other Information tab and a Billing Documents section added to the Additional tab. The processing of service orders and appointments has been redesigned to use the improved MYOB Advanced Workflow engine. New automated service order and appointment workflows have been developed based on this workflow engine. The status of an appointment or service order is automatically changed based on the actions taken. Actions most relevant to the current status of the document are displayed on the toolbar as well as the actions menu list. Default workflow types are provided for the processing of service orders and appointments. Each of these workflows dynamically updates the state of each service order or appointment based on the behaviour setting of the service order type associated with the service order or appointment. A customizer can modify these sets of statuses and create new workflow types for service orders and appointments through the customization process. A list of the default workflow types and their behaviours are outlined in the release notes. As mentioned under the Customization Improvements to Calendar Boards topic, in Calendar Preferences you can set up different status colours, both background and text colour, for each of the predefined statuses. With the development of the new automated workflow functionality, the previous workflow stages functionality can be turned off in the system. This is controlled on the General Settings tab of the Service Management Preferences. Just a note, if the Enable Workflow Stages checkbox is selected, the settings specified for the workflow stages on the Workflow Stages screen, such as Allow Complete, Allow Cancel, Allow Reopen, Allow Close, Allow Update and Allow Delete, will no longer be supported. The configuration of these settings will be available on the screen to support users in migrating to the new workflow. The processes performed on the appointments and service orders screens work as they did in the previous version. The UI on these screens has been enhanced to support the functionality of the new workflow engine. The Hold checkbox has been removed and replaced with Hold and Remove Hold actions that can be selected from the toolbar or the Actions menu. The status field is automatically updated by actions as mentioned previously. A number of actions have been renamed or shortened. For example, on the appointment screen, Start Travel is now Depart and Complete Travel is now Arrive. The order of the Actions menu has been arranged. A full list of all the changes are contained in the release notes. An Inherit Access Rights from Entities checkbox has been added to the Access Rights tab of the File Maintenance screen to tighten up configuration for file access. If the system administrator clears the checkbox for a file, users will only have access to the file if they have access to the screen specified for the file. When a record or entity is deleted prior to the 2021.1.1 release, the attached files remained in the database, taking up space. From this release, the system now checks the Entities tab to see if the file has any other links in the system. If none are found, the file is deleted from the database. As we have seen throughout this webinar, there have been a number of UI changes made to screens to enhance the user experience. From this release, on a number of screens, a subtitle now displays, providing users with quick glance detail about the record they are working with. The information provided is dependent on the screen. For example, in purchase receipts, the subtitle is made up of the type, receipt number and supplier name. In stock items, the module, batch number and description. The system uses predetermined logic based on the active record to determine the information to display. This is made up of the information considered of most value to users. These last two topics are for those users that have access to the Customization Project Editor. In customizations, we have the ability to customize screens of the self-service portal, can set default values for user-defined fields. There have been improvements in workflows and an upgrade to the automated warehouse operations engine. A developer can now customize the MYOB Advanced Self-Service portal using the Customization Project Editor. The list of options that can and cannot be customized are shown here. The techniques used are the same as for MYOB Advanced as described in the customization guide. Only items related to screens used on the portal are available in the Customization Project Editor for the self-service portal. For each screen that has a user-defined field configured, a default value can be specified as shown in the screenshot. You can also select if this is required or hidden. When the customization screen is published, the default values populate to the user-defined fields. More detail is contained on this in the 2021.1.1 release notes under this topic heading. Just a note that the Visibility tab of the Edit User-Defined Fields screen has been renamed to Properties. Improvements have been made to the workflow engine. When a new action is created, the rights to enable action is set to Update by default. This means for the action to be available on the screen, the user should have access rights to edit the screen. If a workflow uses the new workflow engine is configured for a screen, automation steps are disabled and cannot be used even if the new workflow has been published as code customization. If a customization is not permitted for a given workflow, a message displays advising that the screen cannot be customized. To expose actions to the mobile app, an Expose to Mobile checkbox has been added in the action properties of the Customization Project Editor. This is disabled by default, so must be selected. Developers can now use the upgraded Automated Warehouse Operations engine, which provides improved customization capabilities and a more structured modular code. The current version of MYOB Advanced uses the old engine and the new is switched off by default. MYOB Advanced will switch to the new engine in future versions. To make the customization packages related to warehouse management systems compatible with the new engine, developers will need to rework them if the packages were based on the old engine. Customization projects based on the old engine will publish successfully in the current version. It is recommended that independent software suppliers and partners who have customized screens related to automated warehouse operations enable the new engine and rework their customization packages with the current version. The 2021.1.1 release notes under this topic contains the steps on how to enable the new automated warehouse operations engine. And finally, just a brief look at some exciting changes for mobile development. New objects have been added to MSDL to allow a customizer to map smart panels to the MYOB Advanced mobile app by using MSDL. In this screenshot, an Add Stock Item action has been added to the Sales Order screen menu. On selecting Add Stock Item, this is mapped to take you to the Inventory panel in the centre, where inventory items are selected and added to the Sales Order Details tab as shown in the final image. Full details of how this was achieved are contained in the 2021.1.1 release notes under this topic. And that brings me to the end of this 2021.1.1 overview webinar. Topic-specific videos are available relating to sections for this overview. For any feedback relating to this webinar, please email proserve.ed@myob.com. Thank you.